All right, everybody. Thank you for bearing with me. And You'll hear some of the noises of our home in the background. And like I said, this isn't a perfect production here. You get to be a part of our household for the evening. So we're just so grateful that you could join us and have some fun with us. And now we're going to do a little teaching on some ideas of how do we reclaim hope in our lives, especially in this time, in this moment um, in the world. And so um, even that story with the kids is just such a good reminder, and it's so great to see the kids' reaction and be reminded with a childlike heart, a beginner's mind. Again, what was it like? What's that story again? When Jesus comes, the God of the universe comes into the world to bring love, to bring hope to us. And so it was only a couple weeks ago that I was inspired to do this time. It's kind of a last minute thing. Uh, John Eldred and Wild at Heart did a podcast on fighting for hope, and in that email he sent out to the allies, the different people he sends that to, he said it's really what we're going to need more than anything in the next 6 months, probably more than that. And something in me said, yes, that's it, that's true, because there seems like there's just a lot of hopelessness, a lot of despair going on. And so how do we reclaim hope? How do we kind of have that foundation? And so one of the things I've been asking a lot of clients lately, and even myself, is what are you anchored to, right? So I'm a spiritual and life coach, and as my clients have described their lives, everyone all over the world, all over the United States and all over the world, are trying to figure out life. There's a new things, hard things, confusing things, losses, and everything is pushing us and pulling us in different ways, right? And it's difficult. It's not easy. It reminds me of the Ephesians verse where Paul talks about being tossed to and fro by the waves and being pulled by the wind. And if we're not careful, we'll be pulled all over the place by every emotion that we have, every thought that comes into our mind, the way that other people think or what their perceptions are of us, or the things that we don't get to do because of quarantine, or all kinds of different things. Make a list. There's all kinds of different things that are coming at us, and they pull us, right? They have a pull on our hearts, pull on our being. What do we do? How do we do it? What choices do we make? So we need to be anchored to something. So what is strong enough? What do we need? How are we going to be anchored? What are we anchored to? This reminds me, back in the fall, my family got to go to a lake house where there was kayaks, and my son loves fishing and I love kayaking, so we kind of combined it. Say, hey, let's go out and do some kayak fishing. It's a pretty small lake, so we go out, and it was like the worst day you could think of to go fishing because it was so windy. It's probably like 20-mile-an-hour winds, and of course on a lake there's just no wind buffer at all. So what we had to do is basically paddle to the other side of the small lake, and then you had about 5 minutes of fishing as your kayak got blown across the lake, and then you landed in the lily pads, the weeds, the other shore line, and then you got to wind in your line and get the paddle back and go back across the lake, and then another 5 minutes of fishing as you go across. So it was not that great, and obviously what we needed was an anchor, something to keep us still. And it's actually a really good analogy, because it's not like the anchor made the wind go away or made the waves go away. It's still there. You're still being affected by them. You're just not being pulled all the way across the lake. You're not being pulled into the weeds. And so in our lives, we need something like that, right? It's probably wishful thinking that we can just snap our fingers and make the wind and the waves disappear. But if we can have an anchor in the midst of it, so when things do pull us and we do go to and fro, that we're still okay. We're still anchored. We're not being pulled into the weeds, right? Um, so to answer this question and to go deeper into it, we have to start with what do we do with our pain? And that may sound weird, especially talking about hope. But that's where we need pain, or that's where we need hope the most, right? That's where we need an anchor the most, is when we're in emotional pain, right? Things like feeling lonely, things like feeling the loss of Christmas time family stuff that we don't get to do the same way or have to do over Zoom or at different times, right? Things that we've lost, things that we're experiencing as loss. It hurts. It's painful, right? And we feel anxious. We feel depressed sometimes. We feel apathetic with all kinds of things. Fill in the blank with the things that you may have been struggling, things that we were just singing about, bringing hope over, right? And so if we can't answer the question, what do we do with our pain? And if that's anchor can't anchor us in our pain, then it's really kind of worthless. It's not that great. So we have to start there. Okay. And there was a commercial that I saw recently. I was watching TV. It came on, and it was a fine commercial. It was kind of like public announcement reminding you to wear your mask and social distance and whatever. But in it, it said this phrase. It said, COVID has stolen our freedom. And I was like, wow, that did not sit well with me. And I had to think about it a little bit and bring it to Jesus and say, why doesn't this sit well? And I went, oh, because if that was true, our freedom would be really fragile. See, this is affecting us. If we allow it to be that, our freedom, it affects us at our identity, at the level of being okay or not, right? And so what it's really taken away is our comfort. Oof, right? And so could it be that possibly we've become very comfortable and we're really defensive of our comfort? And I'm not diminishing any of the pain or the hurt. And no wonder we're so upset. No wonder we're so intense. No wonder we're feeling such levels of emotions, right? Because we feel it at that level. And we can learn to go through discomfort, right? We can persevere through discomfort a lot easier than if we feel like we're losing our freedom, right? So what do we do with our pain? What do we do with our pain? And I believe that what God's given us is a way through our pain called grief, right? Honoring pain. And so we want to go around it. A lot of times we don't want to face it. We want to numb it. We want to run from it. And yet that's not all that helpful, because emotion and pain, what it does, if it's not dealt with in a healthy way, is it goes underground and then it leaks out in blaming and attacking and hiding, imposing, and all kinds of different things, anxiety and rage and depression, right? And so we need to figure out what to do with our pain, because a lot of people are in pain. And this is kind of a side note, but I think it's important to say that a lot of people are kind of blaming 2020 for a lot of pain and discomfort. And it's true, right? It is. But I think a lot of that pain and discomfort was already there in our lives. What the year of 2020 did with all the different things in it was it took away all the ways that we've been able to avoid our pain, all the distractions, all the numbing, all the things that we've enjoyed to and kind of been able to distract us and get away from the pain, right? And there's nothing wrong with enjoying things and a lot of good things. And what pain needs is a process of grief and honoring it instead of avoiding it. So this is an opportunity, not a fun one, not an easy one, but it's an opportunity, right? So why are we talking about pain? We're talking about hope, right? Because again, we need something strong enough to deal with our pain. So think of a little child with a skin knee. What do they need, right? What do they need? Little Nolan and Evelyn and Hope, when they're hurting, what do they need? Of course, they need a Band-Aid and make sure they stop the bleeding, whatever. But what they really need is they need love. They need to know that they're okay. They need a hug from mom or dad, right? They want to be heard. They always want to tell you the story. I got to tell you, this is what happened. This is what hurts, right? And it's the same for us as adults, and it's the same for emotional pain as physical pain, is that we need that kind of kindness. We need that kind of love and care when we're hurting, for the losses that we're taking, right? The things that are not normal, the things that are we're struggling in right now. we need that kind of care, right? Now, when it comes to splinters, it's really interesting with my kids, because you would think the pain of me pulling out a splinter is 1,000 times worse than the splinter just being in them. So they would rather leave it, right? They scream and cry and don't touch me and all that kind of stuff, but we got to take it out, because if we don't, it's going to keep hurting. And if we don't, it's going to fester and could become infected, right? And that is what emotional pain is like. It's like a splinter, and we go, nope, I don't want to take that out because that seems way more painful. That's uncomfortable. That's hard. So I'm just going to leave it in. Ugh. And then it festers. And then it becomes emotion and pain that goes underground and stuck in us and has all kinds of negative impact, right? So what is an anchor? How do we figure out how to do all that? How do we do a grief process? How do we be kind to ourselves, right? So what's interesting is grief and hope work together, not against each other. I'm going to read this so I get it right here. So hope is not something that helps us avoid pain and discomfort, a reality. It grounds us and helps us move through pain and discomfort and reality, right? In fact, if you don't have both grief and hope at the same moment, then you really don't have either, right? Because grief, we're not going to go through unless we have some kind of hope that we're doing it for. It's too painful. It's too uncomfortable. We don't like it, right? And at the same time, if we have hope without being grounded in reality and understanding that we have to grieve our pain, then it's just a wish. And it's just, we're using it to numb, to hide, to run away. So they actually work together hand in hand, right? And it's through grieving and through hope that we move forward through our pain, not around it, right? So recently I was talking to one of my clients, and he was saying, man, I just feel like I've been messing things up in my life. It's not been going well. And kind of upset with himself and struggling through that. And he said, what was interesting, he said, I was spending some time with God and asking him what was going on. He said, oh, you're not screwing it up. You're hurting. You're grieving, right? And isn't it so fascinating that we don't know pain and grief as what it is? We think we're screwing it up. We think we're messing it up. We think it's something else, right? So it's going to be really important, because we want to honor the pain and realize what it is, and then have a process to deal with it, right? And be anchored through that process. And so we talked through that, my client and I, and we got to the end of the session, and we were talking about that. And he did say, man, it sounds like it'd be maybe easier to just avoid it. Sounds more comfortable to just avoid it. Yeah, at the beginning it does, right? In that moment it does, because it's taken out the splinter, and that's scary and that's hard. But if you leave it, it's going to get worse. It's going to go underground. And so I said, what if true freedom was not avoiding pain, but it's freedom? True freedom was looking right at your pain and having the ultimate confidence that I know what to do. I know how to do this. I know how to go through this pain. What if that was the true freedom that we had? Right? Not fun, not easy. If we had a different choice, we'd take it. But if we know that that's what's healthy, we're going to come out the other side. The hope is we'll come out the other side stronger, more courageous, more vulnerable, more open, more of the person that God created us to be. Then maybe we would do it, and we'd feel real freedom. And my client said, yeah, that would be a relief. That would be an absolute relief to know what to do with my pain, to have a process to go through it, and to still be okay in the midst of it. Yes, yes, that's why it's hopeful. That's why we're talking about this, right? But we have to start with, what do we do with our pain? So I'm going to suggest what this anchor could be, right? Because this anchor has to be able to see us through our pain. And we need an anchor that can answer our identity level questions, right? Who am I? Am I okay? Am I valuable? Am I understood? Am I accepted? Am I invited? Am I enough? Right? Do you see me? Do you know me? And after you've seen me, do you accept me? Am I worth fighting for? Do you have my back? Are you going to stick around? Or are you going to leave? Right? And those are identity level questions. And we are desperate for the answers. And we're so afraid that the answer is going to be no, that we take it into our own hands and try to make it happen. Try to get the answers to them. But we're at the end, we're not very confident in the answer, right? So we need an anchor that can tell us, no, you are, right? So I'm going to suggest here's the anchor. It's love. It's love, right? And that may sound too simple or cliche, but no, 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 no. Because what we're talking about, we're not talking about romantic love. We're not talking about other ideas of love. We're talking about a love that can see us through the hardest moments of your life, see us through the losses and the sadness of the simple moments in life. We're talking about a love that can answer those identity questions with all confidence and all power when God looks at you and said, no, I do love you. That means you are seen, you are known, you are accepted, you are valued. The answer to you is yes, I delight in you, I honor you, I value you, I want to be with you, I fight for you, I've got your back, I will never leave you or forsake you, I am with you always. And it's love that does all that. It's love that allows the little child to be okay when they scrape their knee. And it's love that will see you through your pain, both the sunny days and the stormy days. We have that anchor, right? So, of course, we think of the church answer of God, Jesus, Bible, church. So we're not saying those things are bad, right? But the Bible says God is love, and really love is God's why, right? If you try to say, well, what's the why? Why did Jesus have to come as a little baby? What was going on? Why did Jesus live the life he did? Why did he die on the cross? Why is he raised again? Why, right? Well, the answer is love. If you look through the Bible and just study the word love, it's there. It's right there, right? So many of us maybe were in Sunday school or had to memorize the verse John 3:16, right? For God so was annoyed with the world that he came to just shape everybody up. Nope, that's not it. Right? For God so had a religion that he wanted everyone to follow, that he came to the world and told them all. Right? No, we could go on and on with those because those aren't it, right? It's for God so loved the world. It was his why, it was his motive, is what he wanted for everybody. That was the hope of the world that he was bringing is love. In other places in the Bible, it says things like above all else, love. And we say, yeah, but what about no? It's above all else is love. And those silly disciples were, saying to Jesus, hey, Jesus, come on, give us the bottom line. What is it? What do we have to do? What is the main commandment here? And Jesus said, it's simple. It's love. Love God, love others as you love yourself. That's what it is. Right. And we can say, well, yeah, but what about our neighbors? We don't know, love them. Okay, but what about our enemies? We really don't like them. Love your enemies. Whoa, okay. What is going on here? Right? Connect the dots. Love is the anchor, right? And it can answer all of our identity questions and it can see us through our pain. Okay. And love can even see us through our good days and help us be vulnerable and open enough to feel joy, right? Love is what motivates me to invite my kids into this video, knowing there's going to be crying, knowing there's going to be screaming, knowing that's not a surprise. That's our home. I invited you into it, right? And we don't always react perfectly to that for sure. But I want them to be a part of it, and I'll love them in the midst of that, right? And so bringing that joy and that happiness and goodness and courage and all that, love can help us there. And love can also see us through the storms and the really hard parts. That's what is stable as those winds and waves move us back and forth and pull us in different direction. Where am I stable? What do I look to as an anchor? Love. Even with other people, right? So many of us will be interacting with family and other people and that kind of thing. Maybe you already have and will over Christmas and New Year's and all that. And so there's going to be discussions. There may even be arguments. There may be disagreements. There may be celebrations, all kinds of things, right? And we're in the middle of that, reminding us what's my mission here? What am I doing? To be right, to tell my sibling what's up, to do whatever. No, no, your mission is to love first, right? What is a loving reaction to this moment? How do I love myself well? How do I love the other person, right? And I want to be really clear when I talk about love, I don't mean just being a doormat, right? Letting people do whatever they want, walk all over you. No, it can be very loving and kind to set a healthy boundary, right? It can be very healthy and kind to say the thing that you've been scared of saying, that you've been holding back. If you do, tell the truth in love, right? That's what we do. Okay. It can be just listening, shutting up and listening may be the loving thing, even though I have something to say and I really want to say it. Maybe this person just needs to be heard, right? Or empathizing. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, that must be terrible. I get it. I'm with you. I'm here. Maybe sharing some advice, sharing some help, offering to help somebody do something they need to do, volunteering somewhere at a shelter, whatever it is, it's offering love. And that's what we want to do. That's our mission. We can go back to there and know, yep, that's it. That's where we start. That's where we end. That's where it all is. That's where we're anchored, is in love. In love, right? So as we kind of wrap up here, what I want to do is say some practical things. How do we really anchor ourselves in love, right? If we've got this rope tied to us, how do we tie off to the anchor of love, something that's going to anchor us? And so the first thing we need to do is let go of false anchors. Ugh. That's a tough one because we got to do some soul searching on that. Look inward and be honest. Look in the mirror and say, what am I trusting? Right? What am I anchoring to? What am I hoping in? Especially in the hard moments, especially when the comforts are taken away. Okay. There's a lot of good things. It doesn't mean they're bad. It just means how much weight am I putting on it? How much hope am I putting on my financial situation? Or my status, whatever status in your life or in church or with friends, how much hope are we putting in somebody else, right? Our family or somebody else to do something for us, come through for us, save us, right? And again, those aren't bad things. We could do it, but how much are we putting on that? And so we got to start disentangling from our false anchors, the things that just aren't strong enough. They were never meant to be strong enough to hold us while the waves and the wind are pulling us different ways, right? They can help, they can be a part of it, but they're not strong enough on their own. They're not a strong enough anchor, right? So just let them be what they are. Let them be smaller. Let them be part, right? And then we can reattach to the anchor of love, to know that I'm okay, right? Those identity questions answered can only come from love, knowing that I'm loved and okay. Okay. So number two is asking that question: what is a loving response, right? And man, this is a tough one, and I've practiced this. I'm not asking you to do something I haven't done, and it's not easy because we want to be upset. We want to, get, you know, have somebody else experience what we're experiencing when it's uncomfortable, and they made that happen. We want to kind of throw a pity party. We want to do what we want to do, and this will screw that up if you ask that question, right? But in that moment, it helps. It gets me out of my head a little bit and step back and see that, wow, I have a really hardened heart towards myself right now, or towards that other person, or towards the world, or towards anything right now. And that question can soften it when you look at that person, or look in that mirror and say, okay, what's a loving response right now, right? You screw something up, you don't do it, it doesn't go the way you want it to, you fail, right? What's a loving response to yourself in that moment? Ooh, right? Same with other people. They mess something up, they create some inconvenience for you. What's a loving response? Again, it doesn't mean that you have to be a doormat, let them do whatever. Maybe setting a boundary, but it is a good check-in. It is a good reminder. What is a loving response? And finally, we will need courage and perseverance to anchor to love. Okay, so courage is what we need in the face of fear, in the face of pain, right? Because we don't want to go through that stuff, but courage allows us to. Courage is strength that moves us through pain, moves us through the struggle, and we can do it. We have that. You have that in you. God created us that way. He created you courageous, right? But it just may not be a muscle that you've used that often. And so it's easy to get into a victim mentality of, oh, I can't do it. Nope, it's over. It's all over. Everything's terrible, and I'm stuck and there's nothing I can do. But courage says, no, there is something you can do. Let's try it. Let's not give up. Let's keep going. Right. And then that connects with perseverance, which again makes us want to give up, makes us want to stop. I tried once and it didn't work, so it's over. No, keep going through the discomfort, because on the other side there's something good, and we can hope in that, right? And so to tie off to those things, we will need courage, and we will need perseverance, and it's already inside of you, but it's like a muscle that hasn't been worked out very much. So start trying it. When you want to give up, stay in a little longer, right? Just try it. Just try it. Okay. So um, as we wrap up this part of the evening, I want to read a few verses, Bible verses that kind of capture some of the stuff we've been talking about love, right? So the first one is 1 Corinthians 13, 4-8. And you've all heard this verse at weddings and that kind of thing. So I want to detach it a little bit from where you've heard it before, romantic love, that kind of thing, because it's much bigger than that, right? So love is patient. Okay, let's pause. One little thing. Wouldn't it be amazing if we had more patience? If we got comfortable being patient? Oh, that would be good. Love is kind. Same thing. Oh my goodness, more kindness that was just natural for me to offer myself and others. Wow, that'd be great. That sounds good. And listen to what love does not do. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered, and it keeps no record of wrongs. Now think about it this way. Who do you want to be around? Do you enjoy being around somebody who is envious, that boasts a lot, is prideful, it dishonors and disrespects others, diminishes, self-seeking, easily angered, no record of, or has, keeps a record, a tab of wrongs, uses it as cheap shots for conversations and arguments? Ugh, no, we always have to be on the defensive. I don't want to be around that person. And sometimes that person is me. Ugh, sometimes I do that stuff. So again, we want to be anchored in love, because what love does, it does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. Sounds like a pretty good anchor to me. Okay, the next one is Ephesians 3. And this is Paul's prayer for the Ephesians. He says, for this reason I kneel before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth derives its name. I pray that out of his glorious riches he may strengthen you with faith. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power together with all the Lord's holy people to grasp how wide and how long and how deep and how high is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge, even, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us, to him be the glory in the church and the Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen. Again, sounds like a really good anchor. What Paul's saying, be rooted, be established, be anchored, spend time there, figure out how high and how long and how big, how to receive, how to be in it, how to offer it, how to, all that kind of stuff. That's good. That's good, because you are a broken and beloved child of God. And so am I. Because we have brokenness in our lives, we have pain in our lives, and that's okay. That's not something to be ashamed of. That's something to heal, to bring love to, right? So right in the midst of our brokenness, we are beloved, we are honored, we're accepted, we are valued. That's so good. That's so helpful. And so what we're going to do is we're going to move into communion in a minute. But first, what I want to do is I want to share a video with you, and it's a worship video. The guy will talk a little bit about the song that he's going to sing, and then he's going to play it. And the song's called "Be Kind to Yourself," and it's really about loving yourself. Love yourself and love others. And so that's what I'm hoping you're going to get out of this. And then after that, we're going to do communion together, and I'll read through the Lord's Supper just real quick, and then we'll take communion together. If you haven't gotten your bread and your drink, go grab that, and we'll do that together. And so what I want you to be thinking of is Jesus coming, what we're celebrating, Christmas, and what we celebrate in the cross and all that is Jesus is bringing love. And here's a really tangible way to look at that. So I'm going to try to share my screen here so you can see this worship video, share the sound. All right, let's try it.
Okay, I'm going to try a song on the piano. I wrote this for my daughter. It has nothing, I don't know how to segue from what just happened. But I was thinking about it because of some of the stuff that Sally's been reading. What was it? It was like 2 of the stories ago where you said how to make God happy. So just trust him and believe that he loves you. I was shark crying. I have a really hard time believing that he loves me. I don't know where that came from exactly, but I do. And I can be angrier at myself than at any other person in the world. And anyway, I have this 3 kids, sweet little girl. Her name's Sky. She's 13. Any of you ladies remember being 13? It's not necessarily the easiest time to be a little girl. And she's so precious, and she's so much like me in a lot of ways. But one of the ways that she is like me is that she can be very, very angry at herself. And I can see her sometimes descend into this like vicious circle of kind of self-hatred, you know, like she can be upset about something legitimate, and then not long after that I can see the turn when she stops being upset about that thing, and now she's upset at herself for being upset. And it kind of turns into this, you know, it's like a snake eating its own tail. It just gets worse and worse, and it's heartbreaking to see because I'm so familiar with that language. Like I've just got such a long list in my own mind of the things that I don't like about who I am. Things that I wish I could change about myself when I look in the mirror. You know, I'm sure I'm not the only person who feels this way, but a lot of times right before I go on stage or when I'm around somebody that I really like, my head is full of voices, these accusing voices that say, if they really knew you, they would hate you, you know, or if you hang around them too long, they're going to get sick of you, or you know, you have no business being on the stage. Remember that thing you did 20 years ago, or last week, or whatever it may be, this long list of things. And I was talking to a buddy of mine about this struggle, this ongoing struggle with self-hatred. And he very wisely said, Andrew, you know, self-hatred is just another form of self-worship. We're not friends anymore. Just kidding. But can you feel the truth in that when I say that? Almost every night I say that, people go, you can feel that it's true. It's this, if you're bowing down to the altar of self-hatred, then you're just bowing down to the altar of self. You're spending all of that energy on your own sin and not on the people that God has given you to love, right? If your attention is on that, then it means it's not on the cross of Christ, which tells you every time you look at it that God finds you so precious, that he died and conquered death to make it so that you could be a part of his family. That is a very powerful thing. So one night I was helping Sky get to sleep. She was struggling with some of this stuff, and I remember praying with her and telling her every true thing I could think to tell her. And as I was talking, I was beginning to be amazed by myself. thinking I'm the best dad in the world. Like, where is this stuff coming from? It's this like, everything was this profound wisdom. And it was like these little jewels were coming out of my mouth, like glowing pearls and sinking into her heart. And I was thinking, I wonder if anybody's recording this because it's so good. And so anyway, it worked. And she finally calmed down and she went to sleep. And I walked out. I kind of swaggered out of the bedroom. And Jamie, my wife, was standing there. And I was like, did you hear that? And she was like, yeah, I was listening. I was like, I'm so amazing. Like, the stuff that I was saying, I don't even know where this stuff comes from. And Jamie said, yeah, everything you told her was what I was telling you last night when you were crying. So anyway, so I wrote this song for Sky Girl and sang it for her the next morning, and I remembered realizing as I sang it to her, it was like God was saying, Andrew, pay attention to the way a father loves his child. You've got all that emotion that's heaving like an ocean, and you're drowning in a deep, dark well. I can hear it in your voice that if you only had a choice, you would rather be anyone else. Well, I love you just the way that you are. I love the way he made your precious heart. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Well, I know it's hard to hear it when that anger in your spirit is pointed like an arrow at your chest. When the voices in your mind are anything but kind, and you can't believe your father knows best. Well, I love you just the way that you are. I love the way he's shaping your heart. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Well, how does it end when the war that you're in is just you against you against you? You gotta learn to love, learn to love, learn to love your enemies too. You can't expect to be perfect. It's a fight you've got to forfeit. You belong to me, whatever you do. So lay down that weapon, darling, take a deep breath and believe that I love you. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. You gotta learn to love, learn to love, learn to love your enemies. You gotta learn to love, learn to love, learn to love your enemies too.
Thanks for letting me share that with you guys. And we are celebrating a God who loves us that much, who loves us that much that says, I want to be with you. I want to love you. We're celebrating a God who, as we're celebrating tomorrow and the 25th, that made himself small, took the most powerful being in the world and made himself weak. To come into this world to be like us so that he could empathize and care and love, and so that we could hear him and we could receive that love, right? And he loved us enough to live a life to show us the way, to show us how to do life, how to live and love. And then he sacrificed himself on the cross to show us love. Right? And the death and the torture is terrible, and the resurrection is beautiful. And it's for love, for you, because he loved you that much, right? So if you do have um, some bread and some kind of beverage, we're going to do communion now. And just take a piece of the bread. And the Lord Jesus, on the night he was betrayed, took bread. And when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, "This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way, after supper, he took the cup, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this whenever you drink it in remembrance of me. For whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes." We thank you, Jesus, for your love.